Hey everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today, and I am sharing two Mushroom House stenciled cards featuring new stencils, dies, and sentiment strips, even a little stamp thrown in there, from Simon Says Stamps Lucky to Know You release. This is their brand new March 2020 release. Everything on my cards today is from that release, and these are super simple designs, but so powerful. I love being able to take minimal product and create really amazing card designs. So what I am doing, and the star of the show, especially here for the first card, I'm going to be creating two, is the Mushroom House stencil. And what I'm doing is I have actually backed my stencil. I know I'm using a little purple repositionable tape there, but I backed my stencil with pixie spray, so I didn't have to worry about it shifting a ton. If you use pixie spray, which I did do off camera because I like to spray mine somewhere where it's not going to leave residue, so I usually take it out of my office, but I like to spray it and let it sit for a minute or two before I take it to my paper so that there is absolutely no chance that that residue gets on my paper. This is a 4 by 5¼ inch panel of Bristol smooth cardstock, and you guys guessed it, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers and the stencil, and I'm just simply using that stencil to trace out my shape and color it in. I left the stencil there because it really kind of helps corral my coloring. I'm not having to worry too much about going, outside the lines. Imperfection is definitely key, but what we're going to end up with is a watercolored looking design that is so easy to achieve because for me, I tend to be real messy with my watercolor, and this kind of just contains it all into that shape. So I've got my base. I did not color it all the way in yet. That's because we still have the door that I want to add to this little mushroom house, and we will come back to that in a minute. We're going to do the underside of the mushroom. I have listed all of the marker colors I'm using throughout these cards across the screen. So if you're wondering what color did I use for the underside of the mushroom, what did I use for the top of the mushroom, you can find that information there. Take a screenshot of it if you want to, or you can also visit my blog, which there is a link to the blog post that coordinates with this video underneath the video here on YouTube, and I have listed out what colors I used for the mushroom, what colors I used for the trees, what colors I used for the hearts, what colors I'm going to use for the gnome. So if you want to know exactly which colors, you can also find that information there. So you can see I'm simply taking my stencil and moving it around. I've added spots to the top of my house. I just traced out the top of the mushroom, added, and then I didn't color it all the way in. And then I'm adding some spots. I'm adding some little lines there to the underside of the mushroom with both my mid-brown and my mustard colors. And then I'm going to go ahead and just give it a minute and go ahead and work on the door and the doorway. We've got our little window here. And then I'm going to work on the little stonework around the doorway, the door itself, all of those things. Basically saving the red for last, and that is a very thought out process. These are water-based markers, and water-based markers, and red in particular anyway, tends to bleed. It tends to run. So if I can save it to last, I will. In fact, I forgot when doing my doorway here, I'm going to do all the little stonework, and then I did the arch around the door in red. I wish I would have saved that and just colored over the top of the light beige color. In fact, on my second card, I got smart and I did do it that way because red bleeds. And I had to be so careful, and I constantly had to clean the tip of my lighter marker off because if you barely touch that red color, it's going to pick it up and move it. So I am just simply adding all of those layers. This is really simple. Honestly, I was kind of amazed at how simple this ended up being and how much fun this ended up being. There is like a gingerbread house die that Simon Says Stamp came out with around Christmas in one of the Christmas releases that I think would be really fun with this technique as well. I actually did like ink blending and stuff with that one, and I will link to that video at the end of this one, as well as another popular Gnomes video I did with a holiday release from Simon that's kind of a similar process or a similar stencil to this, just for other ideas of what you can do, because you can do something similar with those, like what I'm doing today, or you could do something more like I did there, where I did a lot of masking, and I will link to that here at the end of this video if you want to check those out. For this, we're just going to keep adding a little bit of color, just blending, going around that stonework, constantly cleaning the tip of my marker. You can see my little scrap piece of paper there. But look how cute. It's coming to life, guys. So much fun. This was really a fun card to make. Love this new release. I mean, there is so much good. I cannot wait to share all of my projects from this release with you. I really, really love this spring release. We're just going to trace around those little spots on the top of our mushroom. Something I wanted to mention really quick, what I love about this stencil, I did not even use everything that comes in the stencil. There is a window, so maybe you want to do a window, maybe you want to do a simpler door and not take up as much room and do a window and a door. I didn't really think the window fit with this, so I didn't use it. There's another greenery piece, so you can definitely mix and match, or you can just forego the door altogether and just do the mushroom. So definitely it's a mushroom house builder stencil. You can do whatever you want here. Now I decided I wanted to add some little trees next to my mushroom just to round out my scene. So I'm using mid green and olive green, and really simply just stenciling these on, and I decided not to go over the front of my mushroom here. So just kind of stopping at the edge of my mushroom. Very easy to do when you're using a marker. And I'm going to just peel that away. We will do one on the other side, and then to tie it all together, I'm going to feather in some grass along the bottom edge of this card. And believe it or not, this card is almost finished. This was a super easy design. I kept it simple, but I think that makes the mushroom house the star of the show. So just adding in that color. I like to kind of add the light layer first, the olive green color, or pardon me, the mid green color, I believe it is, first, and then I'm just adding olive green over the top and some to darken it in some areas. And then I'm just taking both green markers and adding grass. And some of this is going over the front of the mushroom. And that one simple little step really ties the whole design, whole scene together. The top of the card needs just a little something, in my opinion. And for me, that almost always equals a little heart. So we will be adding a heart there. I am using an All Things Happy sentiment strip. These are brand new sentiment strips for the Lucky to Know You release. I used I Am So Happy You Are My Friend. I trimmed it into a strip, popped it up with a little foam adhesive, and then the only stamping on either card is this little heart from the Spring Gnomes stamp set. So there is a Gnome stamp set. I did not use it today, but I will be using it in the future. But it's got these darling little spring gnomes. So they would be cute if you wanted to do that instead of the die cut gnome I'm going to use on the next card. But I just used the open heart from this stamp set, and then I'm coloring it in with deep red and geranium red, the two colors I used for the red on my mushroom house. Finally, we're going to pop that onto a card base to finish that card design, and that's it. So for our next card, I decided to combine the mushroom house with our she gnome. So this is the die cut she gnome. It has the outline and then all the little pieces. And what I did was die cut them from Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm going to color them in with my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers to add that same watercolor look and effect. For me, I really I'm going to be stenciling that mushroom house on a second card. I will not be sharing the process for that because it's exactly like the first card we just created. I just shifted it over to the left. I wanted consistency. I wanted both of them to have that watercolor look and effect so that it really all tied together. If I had die cut this from different colors of cardstock, super cute for a different card. For this, I was looking for consistency, and consistency for me was using the same coloring medium for both pieces. So while it took a little bit of effort because some of these pieces are teeny tiny, it was worth it. Totally worth it. And I'm going to share with you a little hack for those little hearts. Now you could have left those hearts out. I'm inlaying everything in this. You could just color the background of the base layer here, the outline image for the gnome, with your contrasting color. Probably would be easier for the hearts, and I'll talk about that here in just a second when we get to that step. The hair, the little braids for my she gnome were super important to me. This is mid-brown and beige, and I'm feathering in so it gives a little bit of that, more of that look of hair. I added my base colors, kind of did my blending, and then I went back with mid-brown and beige and feathered in so that it would give the look of hair. Also, her hat and her dress, both shades of blue, that was very much on purpose, but I did two different colors. I made sure they coordinated, but I wanted them not to be exactly the same. I'll color in the other braid really quick. And then the only red on her actual outfit is the red heart in her hat. And then there is a separate die that comes in this set that makes hair ties, little hair bows. And for that, I'm going to show you another hack. Instead of coloring in those teeny tiny images, which you could, definitely. I mean, I'm going to color in those little teeny tiny hearts, which was probably a little bit nuts, but whatever. I probably should have just colored even the hearts. It probably would have been easier to just do my little hack and color a piece of cardstock and die cut that again. But we'll talk about that in a second. Here is the peacock blue and haze blue. So for the hat, I used blue gray and haze blue. For her dress, I'm using peacock blue and haze blue. And it's just a little bit deeper, darker color, complements each other nicely, but I love the little bit of difference in shades there. Cute, cute, so much fun. Love these gnome dies from Simon. I love the gnome stamps. I love all of it. For the nose, I'm using beige and flesh color. And then for the hearts, they're going to be so tiny, you guys. So this is where I'm saying if you wanted to color that background piece with your haze blue marker, or you could color another piece of cardstock with the colors you want to use and then die cut the gnome again and inlay those pieces in. They're going to be colored. That's actually what I did for the hair bows. Or I just picked up my hearts and stuck them to a piece of repositionable tape and colored them right on the tape. Much, much easier because I can just, they're not going to go anywhere stuck to that tape like that. So this worked really well for me. I hope one of those hacks will work for you. We are going to inlay our she gnome now, starting with her hat and the little heart on her hat. Just going to add the braids along each side, her dress, her nose, and then finally finishing with all those little hearts that we are going to inlay into her outfit. You could do multiple colors of hearts. I kind of kept mine consistent with the light blue so it really ties into her hat. I contemplated doing red, but I'm glad I didn't. And the reason being, her hair ties, I decided to do red, and I'm going to be adding those same little stamped and no line colored hearts that I did on the first card. We're going to do those on this one to just tie into the heart on her hat. And I think if I had tried to do red on her outfit, it just would have been overwhelming. So definitely glad I kept it with that haze blue and blue gray there. Here I'm just scribbling a little bit of my geranium red color on that cardstock, and then I'll die cut it with the hair bow die you can see in the screen here to do the hair ties. And we're going to add those in a little bit. I'm figuring out placement for my mushroom house. I did keep this part in. I'm going to color it off camera because it's exactly like the first card. I shifted it over to the left to give a little bit more room for my gnome. I am going to add one tree to this and some grass. In fact, I added more grass than what you're actually going to see because the gnome will cover up some of that, but that's okay. But I think it just really rounds out the scene super nicely. It helps ground the mushroom house and give it a little bit more of that landscape along the edge there. Look how cute that's going to look, you guys. We're going to be using another sentiment strip from the new release along the bottom. You make me so happy. I'm stamping those little hearts with the Lawn Fawn no line coloring ink called Jellyfish. Love this no line coloring ink. Super light, but still works great. Been using it a lot lately, so definitely if you are wondering what no line coloring ink I have been using a lot in my recent videos, if I'm doing no line coloring, whether it be Copics or Zigs or whatever, it's Jellyfish. Love it. Color in my little hearts. You can see how that rounds out and ties back into her hat, which I think is really fun. The top edge of my mushroom house needed just a little work, so it was not as nice and neat as I wanted, so I just kind of smoothed that out. I love how forgiving the Bristol Smooth cardstock is with the zigs. I'm going back over a few little places that I felt needed a little bit of cleaning up, a little bit of work. These are water-based markers, so what's awesome is they will still react with your marker and you can kind of fix some little things if you need to. I'm adding foam adhesive on the back of my sentiment strip. We're going to pop that right underneath, centering it. This background also measures 4 by 5 1/4, so slightly smaller than A2 sized. We are going to pop up our gnome with foam adhesive squares as well. And pop her in place right there in front of her little mushroom house home. So much fun, you guys. I love these new products. And then I'm going to put this on a white top fold card base. Don't forget her little hair ties. I did make a little bit of a mess with my glue. Got too much glue there, so I'm just going to fix that. Those hair ties just make the gnome. I think they are so awesome. And in that contrasting color, they show up nicely. So that is it for my 2 new cards featuring new products from the Simon Says stamp Lucky to Know You release. The supplies I used to create both of these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos on how to use Simon Says stamp building stencils for card making. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I am so glad you're here, and we'll catch you next time.